Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast, Lumos Sharing with Love with Lindsay and Lillian. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Lillian. And before we get started on today's episode, I just wanted to update you all on me and Lindsay's story, which is called Destiny. It's on Wattpad. You can search it under my username at Ravendor20, which is not my hybrid house, but we discussed that in a different podcast, so go back and watch it. We just finished publishing the beginning of The Prisoner of Azkaban, and then this week on Friday we'll be publishing the next chapter after The Prisoner of Azkaban. So we started writing The Prisoner of Azkaban. That makes sense. Anyway, we publish every Friday, so make sure you tune into that. But today we have the pleasure of speaking to my cousin Kaitlin. On my mom's side of the family, she's the oldest of 14 grandkids, including me and my brothers. And I consider that to be an accomplishment. But anyway, she went to Nepal to do some missions work. She's in college now, and she works in a nursing home during this crazy time.
Yes. And then with all our guests we plan to have on the podcast, there's 4 questions that they are going to have to answer for us. And the most important is, what is their Harry Potter house? Because that tells a lot about a person. And the second one, what is your favorite quote from anything? And then, what is your favorite movie? And then, what is your favorite book? And we're very excited to have Kaitlin on our podcast. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Yes, I'm so excited as well. So why don't we bring her on?
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hello, thank you so much.
Yeah. So how's quarantine and what have you been doing to keep busy?
Quarantine has been, I would say, there are high moments and then there are low moments. Mostly what I've been doing is working a lot. I work full time, and I have also been doing a lot of reading. I have a huge reading list that I want to do for the summer, so I've been trying to knock those books out during this quarantine time.
That's really great. We both love reading, don't we, Lindsay?
Yeah.
What's the plan going into your first year of college?
So initially I went into school for nursing. My dad is a nurse and I live in a very medical field area, so I thought nursing was just kind of what I wanted to go into.
Okay, cool. And you played sports, right?
Yes. So I participated in cross country and track and field. So year round of running, which kept me really busy.
I'm
That's
a
great.
swimmer, so I don't really like running.
That's okay. Running's not for everybody, I guess.
We're trying to get into it though, so.
Yes.
Awesome.
I jogged this morning.
Yeah. So, and what was your plan for after you were going to finish college?
So with going into nursing, I was hoping to graduate with my nursing degree. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to be a nurse, but I know that I've really wanted to do long-term missions overseas and really wanted to use my nursing degree to not only just meet the physical needs of people, but also to meet their spiritual needs as well. So that was my original plan, kind of going into college.
That's a solid plan, I would say. How did that plan kind of change? Because I know that it did. Like, what happened that kind of changed it?
Yeah. So I was part of an accelerated program, which is not a normal pace nursing program. Things are a lot faster. And I just really couldn't keep up with the pace of nursing school as a whole. That it just came to a point where I just kind of broke down and I was like, I don't think this is for me anymore. I don't really know what God wants me to do. So I ended up actually taking a year off of schooling, which I didn't really want to do, but I did. And I was like, okay, God, like, I'm just going to take this year to really try and figure out what it is that you want me to do. And so during that whole year span of things, my life just changed so dramatically, and God just really changed and worked my heart through multiple different circumstances throughout that year, that now I am going into school for social work. So
that's really cool.
And then what made you want to go to Nepal on a missions trip?
Yeah, so with my year off, I I know that I really still wanted to do long-term missions, and was like, all right, like I'm just gonna look and see what they have for semester-long programs, and ran across this wonderful organization and thought, you know what, I'm just gonna apply. They had a lot of different places that I could have chosen, and initially, actually, I wanted to go to Thailand and Cambodia, and Africa was my second choice, and Nepal was my third choice. And it's just kind of funny how God kind of worked things out with me going to Nepal, because the day that I was supposed to tell this organization where I wanted to go, I was mowing the lawn that morning, and I was just like, okay, like I know, like I'm going to go to Thailand and Cambodia. It's going to be fantastic. And then I could really hear like God saying like, Kaitlin, I want you to choose Nepal. And I was like, why? Like, why Nepal? Like, what's in Nepal for me? But not even a minute after, the organization called me and asked me where I wanted to go. And I said Nepal. So it's just kind of funny because it wasn't my first pick. It was my last pick. But the trip, like, totally changed my perspective on life as a whole. Like, getting to spend 3 months in another country, I would completely recommend anybody to do, whether that be before you start college, whether you're in high school, whatever age. Like, getting to do an experience like that can really just shape your whole worldview, your perspective, and your faith, and you just never know how God's going to use an experience like that to really shape the rest of your life. So,
what are some things that you saw in Nepal that really like changed like what you want to do?
Yeah. So a lot of the work that we did was working with women and children that were at risk for being trafficked. So we got to do a lot of work going into slums, which are just really poor, rundown villages in the Nepal area. We got to love on kids and teach them Bible passages. We taught them a little bit of English and sign language, which was really cool. We went to some dance bars and we ministered to girls who were dancing to sell their bodies for the night, which was just really hard to see that these girls were doing, and they were just from all ages. And then some of the other things that we got to do too was we went to a school where we taught English to Nepali women, and really got to form some really good relationships with them. We were with these people for 3 months, so really getting to grow deeper relationships with them, which was really sweet, but also just really hard at the same time of just seeing the harsh reality of poverty in a lot of these areas, which I just hadn't really seen to that extreme in where I live in the United States. So.
Anything else that we should add, I think? Or should we move on to kind of like after when you came back to the US?
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of like, what made you think to move your major to social work?
Well, it definitely wasn't what I wanted to do. I had told God that I did, and you should never really tell God what your plan is and what you want to do. So I had told God that I was like, I don't want to do social work, nothing with education, not at all. I actually continued to apply to other nursing programs when I got back to the States, but got refused. All of those programs, which is just very disheartening. But then I started looking into other programs at my college and really wanted to do something that I could do in 2 years. And the education program for teaching was going to be a lot longer than 2 years. And the only program that seemed to work within the 2-year framework was social work. And I was like, God, what do social workers do? Like, I don't know what they do. They don't make a lot of money. Like, I'm going to be, like, poor. Like, people are going to look down upon me because I'm choosing to like I'm not doing nursing anymore, which is seen as such a very highly revered like career, and social workers, like no one just really knows what all they do or can do.
Yeah.
But so then so after finding out that I could do social work in 2 years, I was like, all right, God, like I think this is what you want me to do. I'm not really sure what I'm getting myself into, but we'll find out and see when the school year rolls around. So it's a huge faith thing for sure.
Yes. My mom is actually a social worker, and they're awesome people because my mom really likes the job because she gets to go talk to people and help them. So yeah, it's
Very
a pretty cool job. I just don't think I could do it.
What kind of social work does she do?
So she did with elderly people for a while. She doesn't she's not a social worker anymore, but before, like right out of college, she was a social worker at a school, and so she's seen it all, and then yeah, so she knows a lot of stuff with social work. Yeah. Really
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So moving into the next question. You do talk a lot about like faith and just spirituality in all your answers, which I really like, because I know that Jesus was a really, really big part of your journey. So what is faith kind of to you, and how is that kind of like a foundation for everything you went through?
It's a good question. Yeah, my faith has just played a huge role, like definitely gone up and down in a lot of situations. Like it's so much easier to look back on my situation and like the role that faith and Jesus has played in my life now that like I've gone through it. But in the moment when you're in those situations where you're just like, I don't understand, I don't know what God wants me to do, like it's really hard to have that faith and to really trust and know that like is God there? Like, is he present? So definitely like in those moments, I was just like, God, like you're kind of making me wonder, like if you're there, like if you really know, like if you really know what's going on in my life. But yeah, being able to look at like the bigger picture of things and step out of that situation now that I'm out of it, I'm able to really see more of the fruitfulness of like how Jesus plays such a huge impact in the decisions that I make and the decisions that I continue to make. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
I feel like I really struggle. I'm struggling kind of like what you did. Like, what should I do? Because I'm thinking of doing nursing or veterinary, and that's kind of like I'm like it's like so like stressful to think about. And it's like, what do I do? So yeah,
Right.
we're only
And like,
so we have time.
right. And like, I also think too that like the Lord gives us a heart to do like a lot of things. Like he's given us plenty of gifts and skills and talents. And sometimes I feel like he also puts so many opportunities before us and he's just like, my child, like I've gifted you with so many things. I want you to just choose one of these options, knowing that either option that you choose is going to be good and he's going to bless you like through that, which I hope gives you some comfort, and it gave me some comfort. But at the same time, like if you're a kind of person that wants to know like the next step like all the time and wants to know like exactly what God wants you to do, sometimes having that choice is like, God, I wish you would just choose for me. Like so I get that.
Yeah.
And should we move on to some exercise stuff since you did cross country and track in high school?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what do you normally do when you exercise?
Yeah, so I have been running most of my life. I started my running career in 3rd grade, and now I am a senior in college, technically technically I'm above a senior in college, but age-wise, but that's beside the point. So I've been doing a lot of running, but also what I really find to enjoy a lot lately is just biking or rollerblading, even just walking. Like walking is relaxing and you're still getting exercise too. So I'm trying to expand my horizons of exercising and not just running.
I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to actually add more running into it.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then what do you do for a healthy snack after a workout or before?
I love smoothies. I love strawberry banana smoothie. Those are really good. I also use sometimes before I run, if I'm hungry, I'll eat like a banana because I find that it digests pretty well. So I like having banana. Sometimes I'll put peanut butter on it too. Yeah, those are some of my favorite snacks that I like to have either before or after a workout. Usually after, but because I'd rather run on an empty stomach. But
That's interesting. So we've got a little bit of time left. What are some of your books that you're hoping to read this summer?
ooh, let's see. I have a whole list, and I'm trying to think of what's on the list. There's so many books. There is a book that I want to read. It's called The Help. I don't know if either of you heard of. It's called The Help. There was a movie that was made like I don't know, maybe not even 4 years ago or so. It's I'm trying to remember what it all is exactly about. I think it has some things to do about like racial inequalities and kind of what's going on in our world a little bit right now, but just back farther in history. So I really wanted to read that book and then watch the movie after because there's so much value in reading a book before you watch the movie. There's just so much more detail in a book than there is in a movie, I feel like. So that's one of the books. I just finished reading a book called No Ocean Too Deep, and that book was about a family who was separated, and a whole bunch of like orphans and orphans being sent into Canada and being separated from families, and like what does that look like to bring families back together. And that was kind of more of a historical fiction. So I think a lot of the books that I'm hoping to read this summer are historical fiction. That just makes it so much more enjoyable to read history, I feel like, when it's not from a history book.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Because I read a book called In My Hands, and it's but a perspective of a Holocaust rescuer, and she's Polish, and it's really interesting. Yeah, so I like hate reading from textbooks too, and actually reading like actual books is a lot better.
Yes, most definitely.
And then should we move on to what is your favorite book?
Hang on, because isn't there like the one thing on Pinterest where it's like when you're reading a book you want to read, it's like, oh, I have 180 pages left. I'm totally going to finish this today. Yeah. And then it's like you're reading a textbook. It's like, there's 8 pages left. This is too much.
I agree.
It's so awful. True. Yeah.
I agree, definitely.
Okay, so moving into our guest questions. What is your Harry Potter house?
Ooh. I'm familiar, like, I've watched all the Harry Potter movies, and I think I might know all the names of the houses. I'm not quite sure. I listened to one of your guys' podcasts to, like, be like, okay, like, what house do I think I would be in? Like, what is my character? And, like, how would my character relate to, like, a certain house? I was like, I really don't know. I feel like I'm probably a combination. I feel like a lot of people want to be in. Is Gryffindor the one?
We do not want to be in Gryffindor.
Actually. You do not want to be in Gryffindor.
I think lots of people want to be in Gryffindor just because Harry's in Gryffindor. Yeah. Like, it's one of, like, it's, like, the most respected house in the Wizarding world.
Yeah. Oh, and she froze. Oh, fun. Well, we'll continue talking about it. Because, you know, like, Lily's a Ravenclaw, but she's very much a Slytherin, and then I'm a Hufflepuff. Uh-huh. Yeah, Hufflepuff would be, like, the house of, like, really kind people, and I would say, like, they tend to be on the morally good side. Slytherins, they're very smart people, but they're very determined. And then Ravenclaw, kind of house of, like, they love learning, and they're very creative. And then Gryffindor is the house of the brave, and they're very daring. Oh, I can see Lillian's trying to talk right now. Oh gosh. Her Wi-Fi cut out. So yeah. So Lily, I think what she was saying, she's I think she said you would probably be a Hufflepuff. Yes.
Yes, yeah. And I think
Yeah.
from your description too, like I feel like I would definitely probably fit in that Hufflepuff range.
I think it's the best house, honestly. But
Because you said you're part of that house too, right?
yes, I am.
Yes.
It's very much my favorite. But most of my friends are Slytherins, which is really funny.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
People that you like, or in like the books I read, the characters I tend to like, I'm like they're probably Slytherins. So that's kind of weird. And then also,
it's attract.
yeah. And then also, do you have a favorite quote from like anything?
Yeah, there's a quote that's in a book called The Count of Monte Cristo, and I think it's the last part of the book, the last quote of the book. It's something along the lines of, talks about faith, hope, and trust. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know when I read it, it really stood out to me, and I really liked it. So I'll have to look back at that later. I should have looked at that.
Okay, we can probably link that down below in our description for the podcast.
Yeah.
Am I back?
You're back. Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about Harry Potter houses and her favorite quote.
Did we determine Harry Potter?
What?
Did we determine the house? Because I missed that.
I think we landed on Hufflepuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you thought, Lily?
I was going between Hufflepuff or Gryffindor. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Lily, you carry on
Okay.
the next questions now.
So, what is your favorite movie?
Ooh. I feel like my favorite movie kind of changes depending on how I feel that day or how I feel that week, or I don't like there. I feel like there's not really any like one go-to movie that I would go to. But I really love Narnia. Like I love the imagination of it. I read the books, and so then I read the books and I watched the movies, and I think they did a pretty decent job, considering the time when the movies were made, at their animation and everything. So I'd have to say the Chronicles of Narnia for sure.
Those are so good. Did you read like all the books or just the books that they made into the movies?
I think it was pretty much just the books that they made the movies for. I would love to continue reading like the rest of the books. But there's a lot. There's so many. And there's so many good books to read out there too. So
yeah, I think there's like 2. So I read the whole series. I think there's like 2 or 3 that they didn't make movies. But one of them is called The Silver Chair. And it has like a lot of like spiritual imagery in it, and it's like one of my favorites. So you should read that one. It's super good.
Maybe I'll add that to my book list to read, man.
Because Lily, isn't the author Christian, right?
Yeah, I did a research paper about the author.
Yes, Lewis is fantastic.
He's so great. Amazing, yes. Okay, and what is your favorite book?
Ooh. Book. That's a hard one. Again, I just struggle with all these favorite things because I go through seasons where I'm like, oh, this is a good book. I'll keep rereading it. Well, okay, so I mean, I guess I love the Bible. So a book from the Bible that I really love is James. I really just love the book of James because it talks about faith and works. And I think it's a very powerful book and really gets the gospel message across. But there's another book that I really like, and it's called I think it's called What Would Jesus Do, or What Jesus Does, or If Jesus Said if what Jesus said is what he meant, it's something along those lines. But it's a really powerful book that just talks about like the things that Jesus says in the Bible, and if he really meant what he said when he said them. Because there's a lot of things that he says in Scripture that is sometimes like, oh wow, like that's really harsh, or that's a different perspective to think about. So that was a very thought-provoking book.
That's cool. Yeah. Are you gonna read any of the Harry Potter books?
I do have some. I think we actually do have the whole collection in our house, and I did start to read it. I did start to read the first one. I think it might have been last summer. And I thought it was really good, and then I just got really busy and didn't really have a goal of reading any books last summer, so I wasn't able to finish it. But I think I definitely put at least the first one on my list of books to read this summer.
Yeah,
Okay.
books 4 through 6 are like our favorites. Actually.
4 through 6.
Yeah.
We can't
They're
decide.
also the biggest books too. Oh, what? Zoom is being weird. Okay. Should we start wrapping it up then?
Probably. We got 5 minutes left, but
we do?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, books 4 through 7 are our favorite because we can't or 4 through 6. 7's just sad.
Yeah, like
4,
the
6.
ending. I'm like, I had to prepare myself. Like the last 100 pages, I'm like, I can't do this. It was awful.
When you get to book 6, I would say you've got to start preparing yourself emotionally for these characters.
I'm just saying, yes, book 6 and oh gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So could I skip the first 3 books and just start at 4 and read 4 through 6? Or
It would
read the whole series.
zero sense. It'd make no sense, at all.
You'd be confused.
Okay.
Even if you watch the movies, you need to read the books. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, then I'll start at the very beginning then.
Wonderful. Okay. So thank you for joining us, and
Yes.
we enjoyed talking to you and learning a lot.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies. This was really awesome.
Arm circles. Arm circles. Okay. Raise your arm. Raise your arm. Raise your arm.
Are you good? Okay. Hi guys, this is our outro. I hope you guys enjoy your outro. Yes.
So, thank you so much, Kaitlin, for joining us today. We had absolutely a ton of fun talking to you. I learned a lot, got some new perspective, and it was very, very effective. I liked the little conversation we had about books. That was absolutely fun.
Wonderful.
So,
the longer the book, the better. That's my philosophy.
the book is always better than the movie.
And that is. And then boys are just better in books, and no one can prove me wrong. It just is.
Yeah. Yep. Very true. Unless there was some boy who was right out of a book.
Right out.
But he was the exact same character in real life with a different name, and then the book character. So they had the same. Never mind. Anyway, I'm gonna move on.
I feel you on that. Yes.
Okay. So I had so much fun. I know I already said that, but I really thought that it was insightful. So obviously, if you're watching this right now, you watched through the whole podcast, and you probably know that it was very insightful, very helpful, and yeah. Anything you'd like to add?
Nothing.
No.
I agree with you completely. So thank you for joining us. And follow us at Lumos Podcast on Instagram. And what else? So just thank you for joining us, and remember to lead with love, kindness, and compassion. And also remember, be Fred and George in a world of Umbridge. Adios.